Okay, so we are going to break the class up into 3 different parts and start to do an investigation. So at this point, Whitney, would you like to take the error precursors? I think those sound familiar to you from healthcare and probably use those. What we're going to do is we're going to watch a video about an incident that occurred with 2 jumbo jets that collide. And what I want you to do, and after the video, I can actually probably give you I'll give you my computer and open this up. Typically what I would do is I'll give you a slide in the video and recognize, just write them down. Yeah, write down the things where you hear time pressure, where you hear distractions, where you hear unfamiliar tasks, all these things. Recognize those in the video and write those down as you go. Take notes. We will then use those later when we actually populate the anatomy of an event.
We're on the same team, right?
Well, because normally the way we would do this, if we had a large class, we would break this up into 3 different tables. Each table would have their assignment, and we do it that way. Since to break up the workload this way, she will have error likely situations. I will give you latent organizational conditions if you would mind to take those. So let me define for you what a latent organizational condition is. I think it's pretty apparent, but it's the things that lay dormant in a management system that may or may not become an issue. And your experience from aviation, since you came from the Air Force, understanding that, since we're going to go over an aviation example, but if you take on too much fuel, I don't know what the policy is on taking on extra fuel. That makes a big boom if you have an explosion. If you don't have enough fuel, maybe you don't make it to the next stop. There's those types of things that are not good nor bad. That just policy just is, and it may manifest itself later as a condition of an event. Some of these are interchangeable. This also may be an error precursor. Lack of procedures, lack of goals and priorities, might have a problem with the contract, etc. These things, what I want you to do though is to listen to the video and list everything that you hear that's a latent organizational condition.
So we've never even discussed around 3 latent organizational conditions and how they interface within the matrix for this.
Okay.
But I'm gonna give it a shot. I feel like I like to do things without being trained.
Well, what we would do in this situation during a class is this is the actual handout that I hand out. I would hand you this and say, here you go. And I'll go through the definitions of each one of these to save us a little bit of time on this.
Down just so I can
You may, yeah.
Sorry.
You don't have as many as I'm going to bring my computer over so that you can see the error likely conditions, because there's a bunch more.
So like I know we talked about each relative to the class not needing to print or do hard copies, but I feel like it would be beneficial.
Well, and I have a handout set up, and these are the only slides. There's only a handful of slides that actually have stuff in them.
This particular room, you have 3 TVs, but it'd be nice if you could put them up each thing.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, wherever you rent some of these.
This is a nice room for this. It's actually not all that bad it's nice to have a stage because you can back up, but for a workshop, this isn't terrible. It's nice to have tables sometimes.
I like this because it's also.
These chairs are nice.
I like the chairs. They're not comfortable, but I hate tables.
And you can also push them out. You can do a lot of different things.
But it's not, this isn't like a good functional learning environment.
No, but I like how it's set up.
Yeah.
For a small team, this wouldn't be bad.
This would be really good for a symposium.
Yeah.
Very relaxed, very open, communicative.
Mm-hmm. So, and if you'd like, I would go through these. There's in latent organizational conditions within any organization. I'll give you an example of things that happen within the organizations we've worked for. Travel policy. Travel policy used to get us all the time that if it's more than $100 difference between one fare and the other, you can't take it. Brad and I went to Hawaii, and so we can't travel business class because we aren't the level of, you have to be a certain executive level to travel business class. The difference in the fare for Brad to travel business class or myself, each of us had 2 Pelican cases plus a suitcase to go for 2 weeks to go to Hawaii to 2 different sites to teach this class plus do some inspections and things. The difference between the first class ticket and the coach ticket was like $400. It was a really cheap bump for us to take it. And that was for each of us. It was cost us like $800 between the 2 of us. For us, no, I mean it was $600 because Todd's level of authority at the time, he could approve $400. He couldn't approve $600. $600 for each of us. He's like, I can't approve it. He's like, so just book what you have to and check your luggage. It cost us $1,400 each way for each of us, $2,800 in luggage fees.
But it would have been just cheaper to do the 600.
It would have been $1,200 had you just, and I would have traveled
Why did
business
it
class
cost you that in luggage fees?
because they were all overweight.
Oh, wait, yeah.
They were all overweight. They're all Pelican cases, and there was just a bunch of them.
First class, you still have to pay for them. There's a restriction to what you can bring in.
You get so many free bags, whatever. However we figured it out, it was free bags or not. And so the way it played out, it was stupid. The other policy issue that you run into is sometimes in the policy you couldn't figure out how to get home sometimes, so it would make you stay till the next day. So it's an extra rental car, extra hotel, check the flight the next day. You know, who cares what you had to do or what you could have gotten back to do, and the wasted opportunity.
So that's your point on the like organizational weakness.
Yes,
They don't give us the details, they just look at the broad picture.
business and organizations make rules so that you don't have to make constant decision, but you should always reserve the right to make a good decision. And that's the problem within large organizations, is they put themselves in a position they can't do that anymore. They can only follow the rule.
So it's like pre-making a decision so that the day-to-day circumstances, people know what to do.
Correct.
But then there has to be
Exception.
room for exceptions because they do.
Just like they come to me sometimes like, hey, I need you to sign a single source vendor so that we can get this done with this vendor. If not, I need to bid it with 3 different vendors to get the cheapest price, etc. They're like, but the deadline is X, so can you just sign this? I sign it, move on. We save more money in getting it done faster, more efficiently than we would doing it the proper way. So contracts with customers, same thing. It gives you, the single source vendor idea. Communications, you can see within this organization that we've worked in how communication can be a latent organizational condition. A lot of people probably would not have left, and maybe we would have different folks that had, there's a ton of people left from Siemens, and most people left are just Gamesa folks when our customers were expecting Siemens folks to run the organization, and now they inherited Gamesa because of lack of communication. Maintenance processes, planning and scheduling. I think you probably know more about planning and scheduling and problems with that than I do, and about how a lack of a readiness review and process within a readiness review, how to hand that over.
The biggest latent problem in organizations with planning and scheduling is the rigidity of it. They say, well, we can be flexible because we have this plan. We can't change the schedule because we have this plan and we have this schedule. So it can't be changed. There's no way to fix our problem.
Yeah.
We just have to be late.
No, we can figure this out.
Yeah.
Procedure development. Again, global procedures come to us and they're like, that's the Bible. And then you get it and I have places like Brazil, and you're like, can't use this in Brazil, can't even use in the US, because in Brazil, for example, everything has to be manufactured in Brazil. They are one of those self-sustaining countries that the people that work in Brazil, they protect their own. So I get hard hats. They're the same hard hats, but they have to be Brazil hard hats.
You're not helping their community.
So that's how it's set up. So when you look at those types of things, conflicting goals and priorities. What is the goals and priorities of the organization? Sometimes you can't even figure that out, and it changes. It's a moving target. Is it to get people to a place fast? Is it to get them there safe?
Or cost effectively.
Goals and priorities can conflict, and we can conflict in the brains of the people when we say some things. And we have to be very careful, especially in leadership positions in either of these two columns, how we discuss, especially safety. You say things like, hurry up and do it safe.
Or
What do you
do
mean?
it very inexpensively safe.
What do you mean? How do you want me to do it safe, or do you want me to hurry up? Sometimes you can be efficient and safe.
Here, not all the time. Hurry up, but don't make them feel rushed, but hurry up.
But which one do you mean? Because they're conflicting goals, and those conflicting goals change your mindset on the decisions that you make. Roles and responsibilities. Lots of organizations, we don't understand our level of authority to make decisions. And in the video that we're going to watch is from several years ago, where there was much more of the structure of the pilot, co-pilot within the cockpit at the time. From what I understand from the background of Tenerife, is that if you were a new co-pilot and you had issues with the pilot, you could get blackballed and you would not fly again. You're on the short list and you're going to work your way out of that organization. And so that's how things played out with the pilot organizations. They changed much more to now that's supposed to be an open culture within the cockpit, to where it's like we talk about in safety within other organizations. You don't have a duty to stop work. You have a responsibility to say something if you see something. So the folks that are in the cockpit, if they see another aircraft approaching and that something doesn't look right, you're required to say something, not just listen to the boss sitting in the seat. So latent organizational conditions can affect an organization down the road, or they may never affect the organization. You just don't know. But however, in the investigations that we do, we can identify the management system gap and look at it and say, do we want to strengthen that? Because we might not be able to boil the ocean, but also we might be able to fix some things too. I'll take on the defenses, and the next slide shows a little bit better. But there's physical defenses that you put in place, and there are administrative defenses that you put in place. Trainings, briefings, procedures, and policies are administrative defenses. These are the weakest level of defense within any kind of safety culture. What you ideally would like to do is engineer out the hazard. Have a conversation about cars. There's really no reason for a car to go more than probably 75 miles an hour. It should be engineered to be governed at 75 miles an hour, and we should never actually have tickets unless you're working. It should not be a concern, because we can engineer out the problem unless it's in the city. And with all the GPS and all this stuff, I guarantee you that you could GPS the car where it will only go 35 in the city.
You use the app like Waze, it knows on average what the speed, like it's pretty good about what the speed limit is of the road. And as soon as you exceed it by 1 mile, the speed limit on your app turns red.
Ideally, you should be able to engineer out the hazard. Last line of defense for anything in the safety world is PPE. Let me have the Captain America shield to try to protect myself. Let me wear gloves and glasses to keep blood from splattering in my eyes.
Meanwhile, what covers you now?
I'll take a look at these, and I will make note of these for the investigation. What it looks like in causal effect model is we call it Swiss cheese model. You've probably seen this before. This is an old model. It was made by a guy named John Rethal and a guy named James Reason. James, I think, is dead now. I met John Rethal. He told me they sat in a bar and wrote this on a napkin. This is actually invalid. The science behind it, it's invalid in the fact that the holes of the Swiss cheese will never line up the same again, like ever. It's almost impossible due to the social nature, the psychology behind a lot of things. It can similarly be there, and the goal is it's like a kaleidoscope. You want to continue to work on those holes and fill those holes and change things, but the alignment will never actually fall just like that ever again. But the goal is to look at your management system and find the holes and start strengthening those areas. But you want to definitely work from engineer out the hazard down to PPE. Because the last line of defense, you don't want somebody just saying, here, let me put up
So you go
a shield.
from mitigation to acceptance.
Correct. You're like, okay, can't do anything else with the risk. Let me put a barrier in front of you and minimize and hopefully, put you in a, I mean.
The only alternative to mitigation and acceptance not is avoidance.
It's a complete avoidance. And in military terms, and guys in the working arc flash too, those big blast suits that they wear is a closed coffin. What's going to happen to you is most likely going to be fatality.
The EOD bomb blast suit is only protective for your body if you're more than, I think, like 53 feet from the blast center.
Yeah. So the point of wearing all,
Fast wearing something that weighs like 140.
it's really not going to help you.
Your body probably still won't
It's a
do
false
it.
sense of security so that you will engage in this activity, so that mentally you're not having to overcome the reality of the fact that your likelihood of dying if things go south is 100%.
Yeah. And it gives your family something to put into a coffin. Sadly, it's sad, but true. And we have this false understanding of electricity, and when we talk about high voltage and we're working in high voltage, that you're protected working in those arc blast suits, and you are to a certain level, but you have to know what you're doing. So I'll take a look at the defenses. So what we're going to do, we're not going to do Columbia. We're going to do Tenerife, which was the original video that I used to watch back in the day, and the investigation we used to do. You take your notes on the individual areas. I'll take notes on the defenses, and then we're going to populate a chart that looks like this. And I'm going to put the defenses where they belong. You're going to put the error precursors where they belong with your sticky notes. You're going to put the organizational weaknesses where they belong with the sticky notes.
Stick sticky notes up there, it's not RTA.
We can. Yes, we can. So let's start the video.
How long is the video?
Don't worry about it. Are you asking because you might need to go potty first, or?
No, I feel like Libby's taking
That's why this is the end of it. Once we get through the video is about 35 minutes, something like that. And then we'll go through and put the stuff on there, and then we're done. Or I'll do the quick notes and I'll show you something like that. That's what I was trying to get to, because I'm understanding your situation. Where'd my video go? Didn't I have video up? I thought I had a video up.
Passengers think they're on their way to paradise. They're on the road to hell. Their planes are diverted to a small airport on the island of Tenerife. As the day goes by, it becomes more and more choked with planes, and a thick fog sets in. Tension mounts. Passengers and crew are impatient to